So I hired my coach, and in just 5 months, he dropped my time down to 3:09. That got me third place
Yep.
at Boston, and that's when I started thinking, hey, I'm really starting to get somewhere.
Welcome to the Spartan Endurance Series on Spartan Up Podcast with host Johnny Waite.
Hey Spartans, I'm Johnny Waite, one of the hosts of the Spartan Up Podcast and the host of the endurance episodes of the Spartan Podcast. We've got an incredible guest today. Gene Dykes is 72 years old. He has run the fastest marathon of anyone alive over the age of 70, sub 3 hours. So if you're somebody who's working on your marathon and 3 hours seems out of reach, Gene ran that at 70 plus years old. He has a website called ultrageezer.com, and he's here to talk to us about not just how to run fast marathons, how to have fun doing it.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue High Protein Chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off.
Hey Spartans, I'm here today with Gene Dykes. When I say here, I'm in Canada, but Gene's in Philadelphia. And Gene is an extraordinary runner. We're going to get into that. But Gene, would I be correct in introducing you as one of the few people on the planet who's run a sub 3 hour marathon after 70 years old?
It would be close to accurate. I'm the only one.
Well, that's a fair correction. How long ago was that?
It was when I was 70, so that was 2018.
Okay, so
going on 3 years now.
3 years, or as we like to say in COVID time, yesterday.
Just about.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So Gene, tell me about your running career. I mean, have you always been a runner? Is this something that you've done your whole life and still doing, or did you take it up later?
Oh, I've always enjoyed running. I started way back, in junior high school when nobody ran.
Sure.
I would just
Unless
put on a pair of sneakers and blue jeans or whatever, and went out and ran. I made it a mile, and I suppose starting then, I sort of picked up on my philosophy of running, which is next time I'll go farther, and it's brought me a long way thinking that way.
And then in terms of running in races and organized running, how did you stumble into that, if I can use the pun?
Well, of course, in high school, I enjoyed running and so much that it was obvious I should run on the track team.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I did that. I ran the 2 mile event, which was the longest one they had. And I thought I was hot stuff. It was the first year they ran it, and so all the good runners were still doing the mile.
Yeah.
And so I got to college, and that's when I got my comeuppance. I discovered how truly lousy runner I was. It was terrible. Coach hated me. I was getting lapped by teammates, opponents, everybody. So I picked up a couple field events to get points for the team. But that was an important part of my career in that I knew I was a terrible runner. But I enjoyed running. So that's all I did the rest of my adult life until recently. I just ran for fun.
Sure.
Went out, sometimes in shape, sometimes not, but always considered myself. I guess I considered myself a jogger because I wasn't a runner. I was just having fun.
Sure.
So my whole life I've liked running.
So having discovered that you weren't the fastest, and I love your motto, next time I'll go further. It seems like, being a guy who's sort of carved out his spot in the marathon, that you realized that going further was a good strategy for you.
I've always had kind of a dual. Ever since I took up running in my senior years, I try and go faster on roads and longer on trails.
Okay, cool.
So, I have this. I kind of mix them together during the year. I'll have ultra seasons and road racing seasons. I find them compatible.
Well, and speaking of ultra seasons, I love that when I reached out to you a week and a half ago to set up this interview, you said, would love to do it. I have to get back for my 250-mile race out in Arizona first. So you've just gotten back from Cocodona, is that correct?
Yeah, I got back about a week ago now.
Yeah, and tell me about that experience. So again, I just want to frame this for people. to a lot of people, the marathon, which we'll come back to, seems like the pinnacle of human endurance. Like growing up, a marathon seemed like about as far as a person could run. But now we're talking about a 250-mile race. There, sorry, I lost you for a second. We're talking about a 250-mile race, which is essentially 10 marathons over several days. Is this the farthest race that you've attempted?
It is. I completed the Moab 240 4 years ago. That was 238 miles. This one would have been about 20 miles further.
And I read in some of the race reports that a good chunk of the field, like basically half the field, didn't complete it this year.
About 40%.
Yeah.
They were dropping like flies the first day.
Yeah.
It was.
Now, was that heat?
Yeah, it was a big climb and a lot of heat, and I didn't. I'll probably have something to say about that if you want to talk about hydration and so on. But
sure.
Yeah, a lot of people were just, they came up to me and said, I haven't had any water in 5 or 10 miles, and I had barely over the minimum requirement, and I was giving away water. So to me, it comes down to training, and I think, another thing is I think people wear these camelbacks, and they don't know how much water they're drinking.
Yeah.
Whereas I knew exactly how much water to pace it out evenly. And,
So tell me about your time at your first marathon, like your finishing time, and when the realization was that, hey, I could actually start shaving this down and maybe put my name on some record books.
Well, marathon number one was the New York City Marathon. And, I did that just because I had fallen in with a bad crowd, and they were talking about races and said, you got to run New York with us. So, so I trained up for it, and I guess my time was 3:43, and the Boston qualifying time was 3:45.
Yep.
So of course I had to run Boston too, and in between I ran the Disney Marathon. So I was kind of thrown into it, 3 marathons in about 7 months, and in each one I'm a competitive guy, and I wasn't beating anybody, so the main competition is myself, and so I beat the time a little bit at Disney and a little bit more at Boston, and I keep trying to beat my PR in marathon every year.
And then, like you said, in 2018, you brought your marathon time down under 3 hours, which is pretty astonishing, being the only person over 70 years old to run a sub 3 hour marathon. One of my neighbors, when I say neighbors, I mean country mates, Ed Whitlock, I know you've referenced before in interviews as an inspiration, a guy who kept running great times well into his 80s. But even Ed Whitlock didn't run a sub 3 hour in his 70s. So tell me about that experience. And then I want to talk to you about the training to find out if you're training differently than you would be if you were 30, or if it's a similar approach.
Let's see. Well, I'll start with a little correction. I mean, Ed Whitlock ran his first sub 3 hour at age 72, I believe.
Okay.
73 where he set the age group record.
Okay.
And, so he's, I said I was the only one alive who's run under 3 hours.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
So he has unfortunately passed on because he was, setting records right up until the year he died, and we all miss looking up to him.
Yep.
But I guess I first met him just before I hired my coach, and he was talking about the record that he thought was the safest was his 73-year-old when he was 73 and ran 2:54. And I'm in the audience nodding, oh yeah, nobody's ever gonna touch that. I mean, that was so beyond. My PR at that time was 3:14, and at that marathon I ran 3:29, and I was so disgusted that I must be getting old that I decided the only thing left to do is hire a coach. And boy, that's when I found out I was actually a much better runner than I thought.
In hiring a coach, he was able to draw out of you things that you weren't just stumbling into organically or naturally. Like he was able to actually identify areas to improve.
Yeah, I was naturally an okay runner. I mean, you know, 3:14 isn't terrible for a 60-year-old,
Absolutely.
but I wasn't winning any big marathons anywhere, and
Yep.
not coming anywhere close to records. But so I hired my coach, and in just 5 months, he dropped my time down to 3:09. That got me third
Yep.
place at Boston, and that's when I started thinking, you know, hey, I'm really starting to get somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
next year I ran 3:07 at London, and so each year after that I kept dropping my times. So that's one of the ways you can improve later in life is wait until you're old to hire a coach.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's just can't do it
Well,
alone.
there's actually something to be said for that. I know, in especially in ultramarathoning, you've got these phenoms who show up at 19, 20, and it's generally considered a sport that you mature into. And you've got these guys who show up that are running competitive times, and they almost always just flame out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, they get into overtraining and exhaustion, and there's some great ones that 5 years ago seemed like the up and comers that you just don't hear about anymore. And yet there are people who, like you say, just ran for fun their whole life, and then suddenly get very competitive in their senior years, and it's a function of not having burned yourself out all those years you were running for fun. And do you think there's part of that? Like if you were a hyper competitive, NCAA track outstanding all-star in your 20s, do you think you'd still be as good as you are in your 70s?
Well, I think the easy way to answer that is you might think, who would be my competition at major marathons these days? And people would say, well, obviously you'd have to compete against the guys who are winning Boston and Chicago and London and New York, who are now your age.
Yep.
Not a one. There just isn't anybody out there who used to be good in the marathon who's still good at my age. Notice this is totally unlike golf. You might think, oh, I'll just wait until I get old and then I'll take the senior tour by you. No, you got to compete against the guys who used to be good and are still good.
Yeah.
That's just not true in running. I've been told you only have, no matter when you start, you've got 15 good years where you can improve. And I think it's probably accurate. Of course, I'm a little scared because this is my 15th year. So, so I'm wondering if I'm washed up.
But that's a really great perspective, though, is the idea that, and when I think about who's listening and watching these podcasts, generally it isn't the person who's already qualified for the Olympics and the marathon looking for tips, right? It's usually the person who is out there wanting to get better and looking for inspiration. And so in my mind, whoever's listening to this probably still has some of those 15 years ahead of them, whether they're 20 or whether they're 50. And in my world, I really started running at 40, and I'm 50 now, and I agree with you. I actually think I could get faster and better for another 5-10 years, and then I think at that point I've probably put enough miles on that it's going to start to wear and tear more than it already has. But I do think there's something to be said for whatever age you're at. If you're not getting better at the thing that you've done your whole life, it's probably a really good time to look for something you can still get better at. In Canada, everyone grew up playing hockey, and I don't know many 50-year-olds who are getting better than they were at 30 if they were good at 30. But it'd be a great time to take up running or curling or whatever it is that you're not already good at. Would you agree with that? That's been something that's been good for you over the years to focus on something that you weren't necessarily a standout when you were younger?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. In fact, when people say, who's going to beat your records, and I'll say, well, that somebody is going to come along and destroy them, and that person is going to be one who would have been Olympic caliber runner, but never discovered the sport.
Yeah.
And somewhere out there's some 50-year-old who hardly ever ran and discovers it, and has the genetics to be a terrific runner, and he'll just
but hasn't burned it out yet.
He'll just blow it up. Now, unfortunately, some of your listeners out there are probably already saying, "Oh, I've used up my 15 good years."
Sure.
I have something to say about that. This is an untested theory, but it sort of applies to how I got to where I am, and is you should attempt a reset.
Sure.
I once, just before I began my later career in running, I tore my hamstring at the insertion point, and I couldn't run for 6 years. It was a terrible injury. Oh, advice for old people: do not sprint, no matter what. You can pick up the pace. You can really force it coming down, but don't sprint. It's a different motion, and it'll just rip your hamstring out.
Sure.
And so that gave my running a reset. Pretty much I was, fresh as a baby. So if you're in that situation, you might think, take up some other sport for 6 years and then come back to it. And don't worry about them as lost years. Think of them as just delaying your 15-year window. And
when you say 15 years, you're talking about 15 competitive years, because like you say, you ran your whole life for fun.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can't run, but in terms of pushing it and trying to shave your times down and really focusing and putting in that extra effort, that will ultimately burn you out. So if you've been a recreational runner your whole life and think, as my window passed, you still haven't actually cracked the tab on that window yet.
Right, absolutely. And when I said take up some other sport, that doesn't mean you can't just go out and run for fun. Maybe run a few races just for the heck of it. But yeah, running real competitively, just bite the bullet and get yourself back to ground zero, and you might find that you'll be able to really shine. Do you want to try and excel now when your opponents are Olympic caliber, or be like me?
They've all burned out.
My competitors, most of them are 6 feet under, so it's a lot easier.
Well put. Hey, you made a golf analogy earlier, and I think that there's a fair analogy here when you talk about hiring a coach. And most people start golfing without a coach, and then they just grip and rip the rest of their life. And they may hire a coach who shows them how to change their grip. They try it once and say, nope, it feels awful, and they just go back to grip and rip, and they're never going to become a better golfer. And from a running standpoint, I think a lot of people, because we all grew up walking and then we all started to run, it seems odd to people to hire a running coach because, I know how to run. But, you had the direct experience of, already running some pretty competitive times to most people, realize I actually still don't have the basics of running down. So what would you say are the biggest things that a coach changed for you about your running that, whether it was your stride or your training, but what are the things that a coach was able to open your eyes to?
Well, the first thing is that he knows the right workouts to do. I would just go out and do a lot of long, easy miles, a few track workouts, but now, a coach gives you the right workouts. Second, I thought, hey, I'm old. If my muscles are sore, I don't want to get out there and run the next day. I'll injure them. My coach was having nothing to do with that. I was out there running on sore legs day after day after day, and it turns out that's probably an important part of getting stronger is doing good workouts, even though you're tired.
Yep.
And then C, maybe the most important is his motivation. He gives me these really hard workouts that I don't think I can do, but I'd rather die than report back and say I couldn't do that workout, coach. I mean,
external accountability goes a long way.
It's huge. I mean, there's just no way I would get out of bed in the morning or persist in a hard workout except the fact that he assigned it to me, and I just have to do it. These training runs are harder than the races, really. I mean, I thank God when I get to a real race and I can just run hard, sort of like within my capabilities, because when you're training, you're running hard, extending your capabilities when you're tired. They're really, really hard.
In wrestling, there's an expression: train hard, fight easy; train easy, fight hard. And you could just insert run for fight in that analogy. And I guess the other side of that, at the start, you're doing it because he's telling you to, and you're doing it because you don't want to let him down. And but then you start to see the results, and you realize, oh, this actually is making a difference, and that must really compound things.
Yeah, that first 5 months that he was training me, I could tell I've advanced to a new level. I mean, I can do things that I couldn't do a week ago or a month ago.
Yep.
And
So what are your goals now? So what's on the list ahead of you?
well, I'm still trying to go faster on roads and
Yeah.
further on trails. It's getting a little harder to go further on trails because I'm entering 250 milers. But
Yeah.
I have 2 300-mile races I'm thinking of signing up for next year. So,
Awesome.
but I'll check them out a little more carefully. We haven't addressed it specifically yet, but at the Cocodona, I left the field after 152 miles, and
Yep.
and the reason was it was hot, but that was fine. I was prepared for the heat. There were huge climbs. That's okay. I was ready for that. There was, of course, big distances, but what I just couldn't get by was the fact that the double track, which there was a lot of Jeep trails and things, they were just total rubble. And I saw in the course all these places where I was going to make up a lot of time, just as slow going down as going up because there was just no footing. And when I can get by, but I am old and I can't run as fast as the other guys, so I was up against the cutoffs, and it just got to the point where I knew that at the next station that I was going to be totally blitzed, not a chance for a nap. I only had 4 or 5 hours sleep over 3 days, and it was just too much. So I'll be looking at these 300-mile races and make sure that there's plenty of runnable terrain. I want to run. I don't want to sit out there and hike all day long. I want to run. And
but I love your approach to that having gone out and not finished the 250 miler, your answer isn't, well, I guess that's not for me. Your answer is, I'll do a bit more research so my 300 miler is successful, and that's pretty inspiring. Hey Gene, I want to come back actually and have a second conversation. So in this first one, we've talked about how to maintain your running over the years, how to train as you get older. But this really segues into the next conversation I want to have in terms of how to create your own reality, how to frame things your way. And, we're going to talk about how you at 72 years old are setting your goals going forward rather than just listening to what most people would say a 72-year-old should do about his goals. Does that sound like a fair conversation to go back
Sure thing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue high-protein chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Endurance Series on Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DECA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful. Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time.